into the show. I'm very excited about this because as we're talking about, the mind also encompasses emotions, right? And emotions are really the foundation that bring our life that we want to reality, right? It's kind of energy and motion in a sense. And we can have all these things that are stuck and we're not really moving forward in our lives, right? And Elizabeth has written an excellent book. She has amazing content, great work, and she's really an expert in this area. She knows what she's talking about. And learning from people who have walked that path themselves, it's so invaluable because, like as I said, emotions are really the foundation. And if we don't have that in working order, it's really difficult to live the life that we actually want. So I'm very excited to have her on the show. How are you today?
Thanks, Anthony. Thanks for having me. Yes, I'm great here in, well, I was going to say sunny Australia, but it's been raining here in Sydney for a few days now.
Oh yeah,
So, but all good.
yeah. So
Mm.
I'm very curious to hear your story and how is it you got into this place of helping people in emotional work.
Yes, well, Anthony, I always loved uplifting people, ever since I was a child. And I was, I felt was so blessed. I had four healthy children and a marriage and a house with a picket fence and ability to, everyone was happy and healthy and ability to travel. And I thought I had everything. And then all of a sudden, that was shattered with my husband's announcement that we should get a divorce. And that really shocked me to the core. And I really questioned. I really dedicated my life to my four kids and my husband, and I got lost in those roles. And when that happened, I was in a bad way. And then I thought to myself, well, divorce is such a common thing. People must be going through this all around the world, having these challenges. And so I started to pick myself up by journaling and exploring different modalities to assist me to rise up and to feel better about myself. And my journaling and my paintings assisted with my healing, so to speak, and finding me, because I'd lost me in my roles. And as I started to journal more, I realized that I had ingredients to assist others to move through their challenges, whether they're health challenges, relationship challenges, or even financial challenges. It's the same toolkit to assist people to feel good and to feel better about their lives and to enjoy their life.
That's amazing. So it sounds like you found a lot of tools to help you throughout your journey, which kind of elevated your state of being in a sense, right? Because that's the thing is like we go through these challenges in our lives, but we don't really know how to deal with it in a sense. Like we're not really taught these things. And it sounds like you
Mm.
come along a lot of tools to help you. Is that right?
Yes, yes. Well, it's only now. I mean, I went through a stage, shaming
Right.
and blaming myself and my husband and, like all that. And then I realized that was not helping. And it was actually the gift that my ex gave me in he gave me the challenge that actually helped me find me, because I'd lost me. I'd lost what mattered for me. I'd lost me in my roles. And so I'm very thankful that the trauma the trauma that I went through allowed me to find me and to, well, become the leader of my life, which I'd never really been, because I'd always been looking outside of myself to impress my parents, looking for the love and adoration of my parents. And then as an eldest child, my teachers. I was an A student and good at sport, and I always tried to excel. And then it continued, to wanting the approval of the boyfriend, and then the husband, and then the children, and it's exhausting. and I was very thankful that the trauma I went through made me realize that, we come into this life alone and we leave this life alone. And it's really up to us to sort of take charge, take the reins, and to really work out what matters to us, and to be able to speak how we feel, and set good boundaries to protect us and to keep us safe.
100%. So it sounds like you did a lot of shaming and blaming, which I think is something a lot of people can relate to, right? Because we want to do good, but when things go wrong, we just kind of blame ourselves, we beat ourselves up, and I feel like it's very counterproductive.
Yes, yes. Well, just what I realized is when we're in the shame blame game, as I call it, we or even just regret, or it can be shaming and blaming yourself or others. It just makes everything worse. It really creates a big bomb of negative energy, and it's really not the way forward. It's really, and that's not to say, mind you, that you need to condone misbehavior, behavior that's not appropriate, behavior that is not supporting you. Um, but when we can let it go and move on, then we feel we're not chained to the past. We really need to take charge and say, well, I'm going to do me, you can do you, but I'm going to do what's best for me. And what's best for me is whatever it may be, like putting that boundary in place, or saying goodbye to that person or thing in your life that's holding you back, holding you down, not supporting you.
Definitely. I
Mm.
mean, it's definitely a hindrance to our own personal growth and development. Like, there's many of them, but when we get in our own ways, I feel like that's one of the biggest ones because you know, like self sabotage and all that. It's like it's a thing, and being willing to be on your own side. I feel like the number one relationship that we have is really the one that we have with ourselves at the end of the day.
Mm. Yes, yes. When I realized that once we get our internal landscape right, then it's reflected back at us. Life's a mirror. So, in other words, when I was disrespecting myself, consciously or unconsciously, then I'd often find that the children would be disrespecting me. People would come to me with disrespect. So it's really important. A whole chapter in my book, Free and First, is dedicated to self-care, to lifting you up, to making sure that you are number one, that you put yourself first. And I know I can hear a lot of people going, oh, I can't do that. I've got my children, I've got my parents, I can't put myself first. That's selfish. But the reality is, as the flight attendants on planes, they say, put your mask on first. You really need to put your mask on first before you help others. And when we're in a better place, we're vibing at a higher vibration, and our kids and our families, they get a free ride. They get to ride our higher vibration, our vibe of joy, of rather than of overwhelm and sadness and anger, which is not a very good vibe to sort of give to our loved ones, which we unconsciously do, if we're in that mode when we're thinking of our loved ones.
Definitely. I
Mm.
really like how you said life is a mirror. That's such an amazing statement because it's so true. Like our inner world definitely creates our outer world. That's what I find. Like, and the more peaceful you are inside, I find that the less the
Mm.
circumstances have control over you.
Yes, I mean, there can be so much turmoil outside, but if we can step inside, and that's not meaning that we just forget the world, it's actually about finding time in your day to be mindful. And that doesn't mean you have to be in yogi position, humming, singing mantra, although that is a very powerful way of lifting your vibration. But just being in nature or focusing on what you're doing, being mindful. You could be doing a hobby, anything that brings you joy, that keeps you in the present, is a way of powering up your vibration. And it's as simple as that. Okay, am I in my thoughts? Am I in my draining thoughts? If I'm feeling not too good, oh, I've probably slipped into the past unconsciously and thinking about should have, could have, would have, the shame, blame game? Or am I slipping into the future, the fantasy future where I'm fearing? Or am I truly present in the powerful present and powering up my vibration? Because that's where you want to be. If you want to um, find yourself with more abundance of health and good, healthy relationships, lifting, taking steps to lift your vibration is is the only way to go, really. It's not an overnight success wonder, but it really helps when you've got so much more clarity, you've got so much more intuition. um, Everything starts to, you get into a sort of a flow, don't you? I think, Anthony, you've been there. You get into much more of a flow when you can take some deep breaths, calm down that parasympathetic nervous system, and really step into, away from the back into the truth of you. Really, it's back into the power of being in the now.
Definitely. Being present is so important. And there's so many things in our environment and external distractions that kind of pull us away from the truth, right? And the more we can get in touch with what is real and, evaluate our beliefs and all these things like that and really, discover what is the truth. And it's just a much more, like, as you said, a higher vibration way of being. And you just kind of, you just feel so much better and you attract what you actually want.
Yes, yes. Yes, I in my book I've got the power of a tool that I talk about. It's called the ABC of me, and the A is acknowledging and allowing and accepting how we feel in the present moment. So we have to do A, and then B, boundaries, to set boundaries about what we need, and then sees the communication of the boundaries. And then when we do all the ABC, we can be free. We can actually be free of all the constraints that hold us back from being the leader of our life and not trying to do things for others that uh, can be not for the best for us.
Definitely. How do you recommend that we start to become more present in our lives, right? Because that's, especially like in stressful situations, that's a lot easier said than done, right? So how can we train ourselves to be more present?
Yes, a very good question, Anthony. The, the easiest way is just to stop yourself every time like just during the day. Even set your phone for a couple of minutes and just take some deep breathing, because often we're so busy, we're running from one, our to-do list is never accomplished. We've got so many things to do in our day that most people don't stop to actually feel how they're feeling. So whether it's when you're in a supermarket queue or at the traffic lights, or when you're in a waiting position, instead of just waiting, close your eyes and just focusing in on your breathing, or focusing in on the the sights that you see around you, can actually bring you immediately into the present. So just the colors around you, focusing on your breathing, belly breathing, deep breathing for a couple of minutes, and you'll feel a different person, because your parasympathetic nervous system will be calmed down. And if you're focusing on your breathing, you have to be in the now. So it's only when you go to your to-do list or should have, could, you'll realize when you're coming out of the present if you're not focusing in on your breathing.
Very good. I find that for me, having a strong sense of purpose really helps, right? Like being rooted in the present. So I just find it so much easier once you know what you actually want in life, your goals, your values. Uh, you just make it much harder for you to get pulled away and distracted by external things. Do you find that as well?
Yes, yes. I think life is, we've got, apparently, I haven't, we've got 60,000 thoughts a day, and we've always got choice point of choosing, is this helping me or is this hurting me? So once we can actually become more present and more aware of our unconscious decisions that we make, we can naturally get onto that yellow brick road of life, so to speak, and find more joy in our lives when we're choosing the better options for ourselves. Hmm.
Definitely. And you mentioned breathing as well. Is there any specific breathwork tactic that you really like that kind of trains our breathing, or just is it just being more mindful of it?
Yes, well, there's lots of, I've been very fortunate. I've spent a lot of time in India in ashrams, and I do a particular yoga called Kundalini yoga, and so those modalities discuss lots of different breathing techniques. Um, so there's a but there's the box breathing where we can breathe in for 6 seconds, hold for 6 seconds, uh, release for 6 seconds, and then hold empty for 6 seconds. And just simply that is a very effective breath work. There's so many different types of breath work. Another one is called the alternate nostril breathing, which your people can Google. It's about balancing the feminine and masculine within us. The energies within us. The Ida and Pingala energies is, if you're a yogi, that's the terminology that they will understand. But basically, it's about balancing our yin and our yang. We can't go, 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 go without having some time out. It's just balancing the yin and the yang within us is so vital. And so that alternate nostril breathing is extremely effective in that. And yes, so that's one other type of breathing. And then there's the navel breathing, where we can, our navel is actually in the center of our being, and our navel breathing is like a dog panting. We sort of breathe in and out of our nose, and we sort of pump our stomach in and out as we breathe out. And that is very, very energizing. It's a very energizing type of breath work. And it's great to see, I think people around the world are getting more into, I think ice baths and breath work. How do you feel, Anthony? You're hearing a lot more people into that sort of thing?
Definitely. I'm glad you brought all that up. I feel it all goes hand in hand, especially the box breathing, used by Navy SEALs and all that. I've talked about that before. I use that myself along with the alternate nostril breathing. And I do believe that, with different platforms like this and, people just being more interested in health and wellness, I feel like these tools are becoming more mainstream and more people are kind of taking it on for themselves and seeing it, especially the cold therapy. Cold therapy is one of the top things I find that helps me stay present because it really
Mm,
trains you to be in the moment and working on the nervous system, the vagus nerve, and all that. All these tools, like, they're so powerful. And when you put them
yeah.
together, it's like the synergy that just makes you like on a whole nother level.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, and simple things. I mean, I dedicate a whole chapter to, forgiveness and gratitude too, because they're simple things that can lift us up into a better place rather than holding us down with our stuck energies. Holding on to grudges and non-forgiveness is not, it can play havoc with our health. So there's so many tools that we can use. Breath work, being in the now, following our joy, following, as you said, hobbies that keep us very present. Something that we enjoy that keeps us out of our mind and really focused, powers us up. So there's so many different ways of to feel good.
Well,
And
yeah, especially forgiveness, like you said. And I like to say forgiveness is for you, right? Because it's really about
yeah.
not holding these grudges or this pain inside so we can actually stay free, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean the other person has to be in our life, but it just means you're no longer holding on to this pain so you can actually be free,
Yes, exactly. You do it, you forgive for yourself, primarily it can be, but but also I think what I realized, I used to fake it till I can make it actually with forgiveness, because I thought, how could I forgive someone when they've done this terrible thing to me? But then I realized the truth. I feel it's the truth in that, we're all here, we're all on different levels of understanding, and we wouldn't expect a toddler, our 2-year-old to behave. And some people everyone's trying their best, and we're all on different levels of consciousness or different levels of understanding. And so as soon as we stop pointing the finger and judging others for where they're on and their path, and take responsibility for ourselves, well, that changes the picture totally. Life becomes a lot more pleasant and much more abundant and much more joyful and
right? I like how you
peaceful.
said that. Giving people grace because we're also perfectly equipped to help the people we once were, right? And that typically means that we've been through some things. Like we weren't always, we see these successful people, they weren't always like that in many cases, right? We've overcome a lot of things, and we have to keep in mind we're always that person in a sense, right? We're still that person. So going back and judging ourselves, that's not good either because, that person was very strong to make the decisions and things they went through at that time. So, like integrating your whole being is kind of leads to a much better life.
Yes, yes. In my book, the chapter on forgiveness, I talk about the three-way forgiveness. Forgiving yourself, because we might not even be aware, but we may be holding on to shame about ourselves. So it's this forgiving ourselves, forgiving the people who've caused us pain and suffering, and also asking for forgiveness to all those that we've unknowingly sometimes caused pain and suffering to. And the three-way forgiveness, it's like I do mention it, it's I call it the hokey pokey, but it's not hokey pokey, it's the hope of, how do you say it, the hopopono.
Uh,
Anthony, you've probably come across that one.
um,
You don't know that one?
you say Ho'oponopono, like the Hawaiian proverb?
Yes, that one. Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, that's very, very powerful. A four-phrase forgiveness, mantra. I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you, I love you. And those four phrases are very powerful in moving on energy that we could be holding on to grudges. We might not even know. We might, it's very subtle energy. We might not even know that we're holding on to things, or we're not forgiving ourselves, or we're not forgiving others. And that saying that little hokey pokey hopopono phrase really helped me to lift out of um, that time where I was blaming others for, in that victim mentality of going, why me? Why is this happening to me now? Why, I had a good life. You know?
Yeah. how do people become aware of these things, right? Because for many of us,
Yeah.
it's been going on for years, even decades, right? So how is it that we just we we live our lives and we just think it's normal, right? That's just the way things are. But it's kind of
Yeah.
a fixed mindset. If we adopt this growth mindset, become aware of these things, we can actually transform our life in ways that we can't even begin to imagine.
Mm. Yeah, so it is hard to actually see outside of yourself. You can see others quite clearly, but it's very hard sometimes to see your situation, especially if you've been in a situation. I met my husband when I was 23, and then I was with him till 52. So that's 30 years, and it's really hard when you're in a life situation to know it got nothing to compare it with whether it's good or bad for you if it's been with you for so long. Mm,
Yeah, for sure.
yes. Mhm.
So we're carrying around these things, right? And so how exactly do we begin to shine the light of awareness on it, right? Because as you said, if we're just kind of carrying around this identity and this paradigm, it's like it's kind of who we are. It's so we're so used to it the day to day, and a lot of us I find we're not living up to our full potential. We're not really fulfilled, right?
Yeah.
And I don't feel like it has to be like that. So, like, what do
Yes.
you recommend to kind of do that in a sense?
Well, you see, that's the thing. We're not even aware that, like I wasn't even aware. If someone said to me in 2016, "Are you meeting all your needs? Are you happy?" I would have said, "Yeah, I'm meeting all my needs and I'm happy." But I was wrong. I was meeting the needs of my children and meeting the needs of my husband. And when I was meeting their needs, I was happy. So I was sidelining my needs, but I didn't realize that because I didn't know any different. It was probably, like I was brought up that, as a first child to keep to look for the approval of my parents, keep my parents happy, keep my teachers happy. And it just snowballed from there. So it's really hard when you're in a program to know that it's not the best program. And it takes real courage to actually stop and feel how you feel. Are you truly happy? What are you actually feeling? And if you're feeling angry, um, have the courage to actually have that difficult conversation where you set a boundary, standing up for what you need. And it takes a lot of courage, and so it's for people to be able to break free from things that are not the best for them takes. Well, first of all, we have to remember we're human beings rather than human doings. And stop and feel how we feel. Stop, bring ourselves into the present, feel how we're feeling. And then we need to have the courage to actually stand up and say what's bothering us. And that was really hard for me, Anthony, because I just thought I was, I didn't think I was a people pleaser, mind you. I thought I was just very flexible in keeping everyone happy. I didn't realize that I wasn't standing up for what I needed because I'd never really looked at my true needs. And so my book is about how to actually recognize, are we meeting our needs? And if we're not, how can we? How can we meet our needs rather than rely on others? We have to sort of set up our own self-watering system of self-love and be able to meet our own needs first, and then we start to power up, and life becomes a lot more yeah, a lot rosier, more joyful, more
Right.
peaceful when we're in charge of our life.
I love that you brought
Mm.
that up because courage is such an important step, as you said, because it does take a lot of courage in many instances, right? Because we have this pain that we just suppressed for so many years and we haven't really felt it. And, you know, being curious as well, like having it with the awareness, but then the courage to feel it and move through it. I'm very glad they brought that up.
Mm. Yes, yes, no, because I mean, look, it's really tricky looking at how you feel, because that's why a lot of people, including myself, we're very good at bypassing how we feel because we don't want to look at those uncomfortable emotions. And like, who wants to just wallow in sadness or simmer in anger? It's not, we think, oh well, we'll just keep busy and carry on, or bypass it by going out and having a few drinks. But the reality is, those heavy emotions, if we can't acknowledge them, we can't stop and feel them when we're present, acknowledge them, allow them, and accept them, then they don't get to move on, and they keep us heavy. They keep us tied to the past, is one way of looking at it, but they keep our energy from being able to come up to a new level, a higher vibration, a
Yeah.
happier vibration that brings in, likes attract. So a higher vibration attracts high vibration people and high vibration opportunities. So if we can just every day be in our being, be a human being rather than a human doing, take time out to be, then we can lift up in our vibe. And before we sort of lift a finger, we can naturally, oh, I was just thinking of that. And then the phone will ring. Opportunities will be gravitate to you of a higher vibration. Whereas if we're in the shame blame game and wallowing in victim, we unfortunately, I really truly believe, and books have been written on this, that the lower vibration attracts more challenges, more challenges. And so, I thought about writing a book about the ladders that we can climb and the slippery snakes that we can choose not to, we can be aware of, that will take us down in our vibration.
Yeah. I like how you said
And
that because we can live in like this virtuous circle or this downward spiral, right? And it really kind of depends on the habits that we do as well, our daily actions and the inner work, because we focus a lot on the outer work, right? Which is important, right? But your inner world, it creates your outer world, as I said, right? So the inner
yeah,
work, the,
yes.
yeah, everything that you talk about, your beliefs, your values, all these things, like that's the most important type of work. And we don't even think about it most of the time.
Mm. But the good news is, the snakes and ladders board, the biggest snake is next to the tallest ladder. And the trauma or the challenge that you're getting, whether that's a health challenge or a relationship challenge or a financial challenge, is can be that challenge, or that obstacle can be the kindle wood to lift you up. It's more, the bigger the challenge, the bigger the opportunity to lift your vibration, to lift your consciousness, to lift your level of understanding, or to personally grow, whichever word you want to put in there. So the challenge is, you know I think you had a health challenge, Anthony, didn't you? With Lyme's
Yeah.
disease. Yes. And so, at the time you probably thought, well, maybe you did, I don't know, but you might have thought, well, why me? My life is going quite well until this sort of, I'm not going to. So you started to question this and to see the opportunity to learn and to grow, and to personally grow out of that obstacle or opportunity that was given to you in this life. And so when people can sort of, I couldn't at the time, and I don't know if you could, but at the time, when husband announced he wanted a divorce, I couldn't go, oh well, yes, great, this is an opportunity to personally grow. I didn't see it at the time, but now I do recognize the challenges come with that, what is it, make lemonade out of your lemons.
Lemonade out of lemons. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. And so but it's up to the individual to be able to, in the end, it's ultimately up to you, up to the person, as to whether they use the challenge as an opportunity to grow, or, as you said before, to spiral down further. And of course, I was climbing Mount Everest, and then I'd take a few steps back. We can't do it overnight, and we need to be kind to ourselves. That's what I realize, and I stress in my book. Reward ourselves as we move forward on the path. We don't just admire the view at the top of Mount Everest. We enjoy the journey, and we congratulate ourselves as we lift up into a quarter of the way up Mount Everest, or quarter of the way up, being finding ourselves. And it's very important I feel, to be kind to ourselves, and not shame and blame ourselves about things that we did and should have or could have done, because that's only going to hold us back.
Right. I like how you said meeting your own needs as well, right? Because we tend to look to the external things to meet our own needs,
Mm.
right? And they can come from a lot of it probably comes from childhood, right? So doing the inner child work as well, and essentially learning how to like have agency over our own mind, our own bodies, our own spirits. That's the key, because we ultimately cannot control the external circumstances, but we can influence them, right? But having that relationship with yourself, hey, and like knowing how to deal with certain challenges, that's like it's so key. And
Mm.
thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, yes. And I think, recognizing, I think, people talk about triggers, things that have happened to you in the past may trigger you in the future, unless you're aware, unless you can bring yourself and go, hey, hang on, that's because I've experienced that in the past. I might be more sensitive to this particular situation. But is this the truth? Like, if I hadn't gone through that experience, would I be overreacting like how I am? And just take a step back, and rather than overreact to a situation, to be able to stand back and to feel how you really feel, and then respond, is a very powerful tool as well. When we take time, and rather than just go on automatic, so to speak, with how we choose to respond to a certain situation.
Yeah, for real. How do we start to become more aware of our triggers, right? Because as you said, like learning how to respond to things is so important. And the ability to self assess is really key in this as well, because we can kind of look over our day and see how we responded on certain things. And, if this is something favorable, something that is in line with my goals or not, and then kind of adjust our response, like the ability to self assess.
Yes. Yeah. And again, that all comes back to just feeling how we feel, and being present when we make our choices. Is that 10th beer good for us? Or maybe I should go home now. You know what I mean? Like, it's simply choice point. Everything, if we have got 60,000 thoughts a day, which is a bit mind-boggling, but every moment of the day we can choose. We have an ability to choose what's best for us. And if we can start choosing things that lift us, and saying no to things that are hurting us or hindering us, that's a really big step forward. And again, we
Yeah,
have to, yeah, it's a very simple, powerful tool, just to look at your day and go, okay, is this what I really feel is best for me? Is this helping or hurting me? And to just break down your day and start choosing what's good for you, you know, making decisions, taking charge.
absolutely. Like having that personal agency, and really taking self-honoring action, right? Because a lot of us, we say yes to things that we really don't want to, and we're not really having these standards in our lives. We're not really upholding what is the truth and really feels good to us. It's kind of like we kind of get pulled in all these different directions, not really helping us live the life that we want to.
Yeah, and I think the why I was, I was always like, well, why did I people please? Why was I always putting others before me? Why? And the reason I felt for me was there was a very unconscious feeling of unworthiness, and it's really subtle because I was just thought, I was always felt pretty happy about myself, but the subtlety of it was if you're doing things for the approval of others that you don't want to do, why are we doing it? Do you know what I mean? We're doing it subtly because we want to have more love or more approval, but we have to find the love and approval within ourselves. And so that's when I decided that anything that we're doing for others that we don't really want to do is not the way to go. It's actually by saying actually no to that task, and actually looking inside yourself, how to build you, how to get your internal landscape happy, how we can feel good about ourselves, so we're not doing things grudgingly for others, because that's when we start unbalancing the relationships we have with the people around us. you know the you know if we were to talk about the narcissist, for instance, the narcissist will only be the narcissist if the other person enables the narcissist. So for the narcissist to plonk into the life of someone, it requires that person to enable by not speaking up, by not feeling good about themselves. Then they're the energy is a perfect match. So therefore, the vital ingredient of my book is we need to start to feel good about ourselves, power up ourselves by self-care, choosing things that are good for us, being present so we're aware of things that are not serving us and choosing well, and standing up to behavior that won't allow others to hurt us, not who are not supportive of us to come into our lives.
Right? Being aware of your come from as well, right? Are you coming from a place of love or a place of fear, right? And
Mm.
because if you're coming from a place of fear, I don't think it's going to last at the end. I mean, I think that it can be motivating in certain circumstances, right? But ultimately, I think we need to get to a place of love because that's going to lead to highest fulfillment and the best decisions, like filtering things through our values and all these things. That's really important because especially like in personal development's place, like it's important to know that you're enough, right? Like the paradox of success. It's enough as you are, but also like the very nature of life is growth.
Mm. Yes, yes. I mean, I really truly believe, that the challenges that we face are opportunities to grow, and it is really tricky at a time where the world is in so much turmoil. But the turmoil in the world is is an opportunity to actually um, assess what's working and what's not, and for the world to be able to move on to a better place. You know, I'm an optimist at a world level as well, that the challenges that the world is facing will assist to bring in better things in the future, and you know, a higher level of consciousness for humanity and everyone. You know.
Absolutely. I
Mm.
find that, like when these troubling circumstances come about, that's like a perfect opportunity to kind of learn more about ourselves as well, right? Because all these things may come up, and it really kind of helps us become aware of certain things in our life, right? And that's a great that's a great time to do the self assessment and kind of work through that and anything that may come up
Mm.
too.
Yes. Yes, but I think, you know, like getting down to the matter of facts of everything, you know, like 'cause sometimes I give radio interviews for 10 minutes, and you know, everyone's wanting the quick fixes to feeling good. I think, you know, find someone around the world that doesn't want to feel good fast, you know, like, and so that's so the quick fixes to feeling good, you know, like it's just so important that when we're not feeling good, to realize that that is not the truth of us, that we're just lost in in our thoughts, in our draining thoughts, and to come do something do something to snap us into the present, whatever that whatever that is, whatever that takes, to whether it's focusing on your breathing, looking at the sights and sounds around us, um, will automatically feel better. And that's a really important tool to actually lift us up into a better place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because in life we always have an opportunity to grow in the circumstance, right? Because I like to say, don't just go through it, but grow through it, right? Because that's when we really become the type of person. Like when we're going through these certain challenges and circumstances, I really believe that it's an opportunity to kind of forge our character to live the life that we want, right? It's like because success is ultimately something you attract by the person that you become, right? And it's always
Yeah.
about like if we have these goals, I always find like it's more so about who you become in that process, you know?
Mm, yes. Yeah, I mean, that's not to say that we shouldn't, you know, like, because a lot of people say, oh, I'm an optimist. I'm not going to ever go there with my sadness, or I'm not going to go there with my anger. I'm not angry. I'm not angry. No, I'm not sad. But then it is important not to sort of bypass that and think, oh no, I'm going to be happy. But because if we bypass it and don't feel that emotion, it can't move from us. It can't, you know, it gets stuck in our energy field. So it, we don't want to wallow in it. It's a tricky one, isn't it, Anthony? I think we want to acknowledge it and call it out, call it out, call it out. Hey, sadness, thank you for coming up. And then do something to allow it to move on. You know, like anger, go for a run, go for a run. Have that empowered conversation with the person who you're angry with. Anything to allow that emotion to be processed is very important. So we can't bypass how we feel. We can't just, you
Absolutely.
know, like, I think that's really important, because a lot of people go, oh no, I'm not going to think about that. I'm not going to think about that sadness. I'm not going to think about that anger. No, oh no, that's not me. But it can still be inherent within you. And so to acknowledge it, but not to wallow in it and go over and over about it with your mates about he said, she said, and the drama, you know, the drama of life, to actually go over and over the drama, the shame blame game, and talking about it with your mates. It just elevates that, or exaggerates that negative energy, and you know, nothing good can come from that.
Exactly.
Mm.
Why do you think we bypass emotions so often? Like, is it just because of the pain, or is it something that we're just kind of accustomed to?
I think that we everyone is seeking joy and happiness, but the reality is happiness, like sadness, is, it's fleeting. Happiness is fleeting. We can feel it when we buy a buy a new dress or a car or whatever. We go, oh, I'm happy now. But it will pass. And so um the only thing that doesn't pass is the peace that we can gain from coming into our truth of our presence. And that is always there for us, no matter how, as you said before, Anthony, no matter how much turmoil there is in the world, we can always find the peace within ourselves, and we have the choice to radiate that. It doesn't mean we're not sympathetic to what's happening in what's going on in the world or with our loved ones, but the the biggest gift we can give our loved ones and the world is to actually lift ourselves, find the peace within ourselves, power up ourselves, and then they get to ride our high vibe. They get to ride the magic carpet of the high vibe that we are emanating as we do, as people start to do work that lifts them. Then it helps everyone around us.
Exactly. I love that so much. Like being the model and the change is so key. Cause I understand the decisions I make on a day-to-day basis, they don't just affect me, right? And whether we know it or not, people are watching us. And
Mm.
I just want to be the light for people around me as well. And it's so important as a concept to kind of have in our minds, right? Because I feel like that'll help us make better decisions throughout our day. Because if we know that people are going to look up to us, and like what type of example do we want to be? Because we're going to be an example one way or another. Type is which one,
Mm.
right?
Yes. And like as Buddha is quoted in my book, the thoughts we become, your thoughts you become. In that, if we think we're sad, bad, and angry, or we're a poor poet, we're going to be a poor poet. We literally move into what our thoughts are. And then again, we can't keep track of all our thoughts. So the only thing we can keep track of is how we're feeling. That's the power, how we're feeling. And if we're not feeling good, do something about it. I mean, you know, take the reins and bring yourself out of your thoughts and into the present, because you've got the power to change how you feel and to work through what you need, and yeah, and feel better.
Exactly. Lastly, do you believe that like emotions can be messages, like something to? It's like a skill, right? Something that we develop within ourselves and we kind of become better over time.
Yes, I mean, emotions are, I think, well, I know, I write about in my book that the emotions that we feel are our superheroes or our guardian angels, because if how we're feeling alerts us to our needs. And so if we're feeling angry, oh, I'm really feeling angry with my boss, or I'm really feeling angry with my partner, it allows us to say, okay, well, I can do nothing about it and just simmer and have that anger simmering in me. That's not good for my health. Have the big anger bomb. That's not good for anyone. Or I can have that empowered conversation where I feel into how I feel and have that empowered conversation about what is bothering me and what I need. And to have that empowered conversation requires vulnerability, to feel how we feel. And it takes a lot of practice, well, it did for me, to actually feel, slow down, feel how I feel. And then also the courage to actually talk about and to speak up about what was bothering me, and what I needed. But when I started to follow this A, B, C of me, I became free. And it takes a lot of practice. And I wish I could just skip to C and have that communication. But you have to you have to acknowledge and accept how you feel. And then B is the boundaries. Stand up at what's bothering you, set the boundary, and see the communication. And there's a whole 3 chapters on the A and the B and the C, because that's the key to an empowering yourself, being free from to live the life you want to live, and to hold the reins of your life. Mm.
Awesome. Well, Elizabeth, this has been absolutely amazing. I really appreciate you sharing your story with us and all of your insights. I mean, your wealth of knowledge in all things emotions. Like we talked about so many things in terms of like empowerment and really being present. A lot of tactics that go with that. We talked about finding our values that have according to purpose. And I truly believe that if we take on these things and apply it to our own life, we're going to go to a whole nother level and really kind of lead a life of fulfillment, right? Because that's what we're here for. And I just kind of feel that more people utilize this, as we said at the end, we just kind of become a light for others, and then we kind of, as we do that, we want others to succeed, and we just kind of have this virtuous circle of things going on, and the more greatness will be in the world, I believe. So I appreciate your work so much.
Oh, no, thanks, Anthony. Thank you for having me on today.
Absolutely. If people want to get connected with you and your book, well, where can they go for that?
So the best thing is to jump onto my website. So it's elizabethjane.com.au, AU for Australia. So elizabethjane.com.au. And I'm about to put out a second edition of my book, Free and First Unlocking Your Ultimate Life, is available through Amazon. And yes, hopefully it'll be in different languages at some stage, and on Audible for people who like listening to books.
Awesome. I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing all your insights with us. It's been a true blessing.
Oh, thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay, bye.